You might think moving to the Carolinas is the ultimate ticket to freedom, complete with lower taxes, beautiful weather, and that charming southern hospitality. But hold on tight, because that dream is rapidly turning into a financial nightmare for thousands of unsuspecting buyers who are jumping in at exactly the wrong time. Before we dive into the housing markets that are melting down, make sure you hit that subscribe button for Tax Hack Pro. We track the real estate trends that can save or cost you hundreds of thousands of dollars. We are seeing a massive, undeniable shift in the real estate market across both North and South Carolina that the mainstream media is barely whispering about. Inventory is piling up to dangerous levels. Sellers are slashing prices out of desperation, and new construction sites are turning into silent ghost towns before anyone even moves in. The data is flashing red warning signals in neighborhoods that were considered safe bets just 6 months ago. And if you aren't careful, you could walk right into a trap. Imagine sinking your entire life savings into a property that loses value the moment you sign the deed. That is the harsh reality unfolding in these specific pockets of the Carolinas right now. We are about to hit the road and drive through 10 specific suburbs where the housing market isn't just cooling down, it is completely melting down. Later on, we will visit a spot near Charlotte where homes are sitting empty for months on end. And you won't believe which popular coastal town is seeing investors flee in absolute panic. So buckle up and let's drive straight into the chaos. Number 10, Wake Forest, North Carolina. We are starting our engines just north of Raleigh in the charming town of Wake Forest. As you drive through the tree-lined streets and past the historic seminary campus, everything looks picturesque. But do not let the curb appeal fool you for a second. This area became a hotspot during the pandemic boom, drawing in remote workers by the thousands. But now the hangover has officially set in. The market here is stalling out faster than a car with a dead battery. You can see, for sale, signs lingering in front yards for weeks, turning into months. This is a stark contrast to the bidding wars we saw just 2 years ago. The builders here got overconfident, and now they are holding onto bags of inventory that nobody seems to want at current interest rates. Let's look at the cold, hard numbers that paint a grim picture. According to recent market data, the number of homes for sale in Wake Forest has surged by over 45% year over year. That is a massive supply glut that is drowning the market. Furthermore, data shows that the median days on market has nearly doubled compared to this time last year. Sellers are panicking, and nearly 28% of active listings have had a price cut in the last 30 days alone. We are also seeing new construction permits dropping, with local municipal data indicating a 15% slowdown in new starts. Perhaps most shockingly, the absorption rate has plummeted to under 2 months in some price brackets, signaling a shift to a buyer's market that sellers are refusing to accept. Even the rental market is softening, with vacancy rates ticking up to 6% according to local property management reports. Finally, mortgage applications for this specific zip code are down nearly 30%. My take on this is simple. Wake Forest is turning into a waiting room for sellers who still think it is 2021, and you should not pay for their delusion. If you want to stay updated on which markets are crashing next, subscribe to Tax Hack Pro so you never miss a critical update. Number 9, Goose Creek, South Carolina. Crossing the state line and heading down towards the coast, we find ourselves in Goose Creek, just north of Charleston. This suburb has always been the affordable alternative for those who couldn't afford the pricey historic district or the beaches. But that affordability is vanishing, and the market is breaking under the pressure. As you cruise down St. James Avenue, you will notice endless strip malls and subdivisions that all look exactly the same. The problem here is that developers built way too many entry-level homes, and now that the economy is tightening, the buyer pool for these properties has completely evaporated. It feels like the music has stopped, but there are still hundreds of chairs, or in this case, houses, left empty. The statistics here are honestly frightening for anyone holding property. Recent reports from the local multiple listing service show that active inventory in Goose Creek is up by a staggering 52% compared to last year. That is a flood of homes with no buyers. Data from foreclosure tracking services indicates that foreclosure filings in this county have ticked up by 12%, which is a leading indicator of distress. You also have a situation where the median sales price has actually declined by 3% quarter over quarter. According to market analysts, homes are sitting stagnant, with the average cumulative days on market reaching nearly 50 days. Another shocking figure from local title companies suggests that investor purchases have dropped by 40% in this area. To make matters worse, new build incentives are through the roof, with builders offering up to $20,000 in concessions just to move units. This destroys the resale value for existing homeowners. Even the sale-to-list price ratio has dropped to 97%. My honest opinion is that Goose Creek is drowning in generic inventory, and unless you get a steal of a deal, you are catching a falling knife. Number 8. Garner, North Carolina. We are swinging the car back up to North Carolina, heading just south of Raleigh to the town of Garner. For a long time, this was the sleepy blue-collar neighbor to the capital. But recently, it exploded with growth that it frankly could not handle. As you navigate the construction traffic on US 70, you will realize that Garner tried to grow too fast, and now it is facing a serious correction. The infrastructure is struggling to keep up, but the real story is the housing market hitting a brick wall. This area attracted a lot of investors looking for quick flips, but now those flippers are stuck with properties they cannot unload without taking a massive loss. The data coming out of Garner is nothing short of a disaster for sellers. The share of listings with a price cut is hovering around 32%, which is one of the highest rates in the Triangle area. Inventory levels have skyrocketed, with active listings increasing 60% year over year. That is a supply shock that crushes prices. The average sale price per square foot has stagnated, showing zero growth over the last 2 quarters. We are also seeing that pending sales have dropped by 22%, according to the local board of realtors. Mortgage delinquency rates in this zip code have crept up to nearly 4% based on consumer credit reporting. Another alarming stat is that the months of supply has jumped from 1 month to nearly 4 months in just a year. Builders are even halting new phases in some subdivisions because they cannot sell the spec homes they have already framed. My personal view is that Garner is the classic example of a boomtown going bust. The hype is gone, and the reality of high interest rates has crushed the demand here completely. Number 7. Simpsonville, South Carolina. Heading back into the Palmetto State, we arrive in the upstate region, specifically Simpsonville, which is part of the Golden Strip outside Greenville. You might drive past the clock tower downtown and think this place is booming, and for a while it was. Everyone wanted to move here for the jobs and the quality of life. However, Simpsonville has become a victim of its own success. The market here is incredibly saturated. You drive through neighborhoods and it feels like every third house has a sign in the yard. It is no longer the hidden gem it used to be. It is an overcrowded market where sellers are fighting tooth and nail for a shrinking pool of qualified buyers. The numbers for Simpsonville are screaming saturation. Data shows that inventory has risen for 8 consecutive months. We are looking at a 48% increase in homes for sale compared to last year. The absorption rate has slowed dramatically, with homes taking an average of 55 days to go under contract. Shockingly, new construction inventory makes up nearly 35% of the total market here, and builders are slashing prices by 10% or more to move units. Only 15% of homes are selling above list price, a sharp drop from over 50% just 2 years ago. Foreclosure starts in the county are up 9% year over year. Even rental vacancies are rising, hitting 7% according to local property managers. Additionally, the average price cut for existing homes is hovering around $8,000. I honestly believe Simpsonville is a trap right now because you are competing against desperate builders who have deeper pockets than you do, and that is a battle you will lose every single time. Number 6. Indian Trail, North Carolina. We are gripping the steering wheel a little tighter as we head west towards the Charlotte metro area to check on Indian Trail. This suburb was once the poster child for the pandemic housing boom, known for being an affordable, family-friendly escape from the cramped city center. But as you navigate the bumper-to-bumper traffic on Independence Boulevard, you will realize that the congestion on the roads is now matched by the congestion in the housing market. Indian Trail saw massive, unsustainable appreciation over the last 3 years, pushing home prices to dizzying heights that the local median income simply cannot support anymore. Now that interest rates are remaining stubbornly high, the affordability ceiling has been smashed, and the market is violently rejecting these inflated prices. It has turned into a tense standoff between stubborn sellers clinging to yesterday's prices and buyers who physically cannot qualify for loans. The statistics emerging from Indian Trail are signaling a complete reversal of fortune. The months of supply of inventory has effectively tripled in the last 12 months alone. That is a rapid, dangerous accumulation of unsold homes that destroys leverage. Closed sales are down by 25% year over year, meaning the liquidity in the market is completely dried up. The median listing price has finally started to trend downwards by 2% quarter over quarter, marking the start of negative equity for recent buyers. We are seeing that nearly 40% of all transactions now involve heavy seller concessions, meaning sellers are paying thousands for the buyer's closing costs just to get the deal done. Days on market have surged to over 45 days on average. Another scary stat is that pre-foreclosure filings are up 10% in this specific zip code. Investor activity, which drove a lot of the initial growth, has plummeted by 50%. Even the number of showings per listing has dropped by half according to scheduling data. My perspective is that Indian Trail got too expensive too fast, and now gravity is taking over. This correction is going to be painful, long-lasting, and unavoidable for anyone who bought at the peak. If you are worried about your own property taxes or equity in this shifting market, be sure to subscribe to Tax Hack Pro. We break down the complex financials so you can protect your assets. Number 5. Lexington, South Carolina. Our journey takes us south across the border into the Midlands of South Carolina, specifically to Lexington, located just outside the capital city of Columbia. This area is famous for Lake Murray and its top-rated schools, factors that usually insulate a housing market from downturns. But that safety net has been shredded. As you drive across the dam and pass through the endless sprawling subdivisions, you can sense the financial tension in the air. Lexington has been building nonstop for a decade to accommodate northern transplants, and now that demand has suddenly vanished like a mirage. It feels like a faucet was turned off overnight. We are seeing massive planned communities where the sales centers are empty, and existing homeowners are horrified to find out that their equity is evaporating into thin air because they are competing with desperate builders. The data here is absolutely brutal for anyone trying to sell a house right now. According to local listing services, active listings in Lexington are up a massive 55% year over year. That is a huge glut of homes flooding a market with no buyers. The median days on market has stretched to 60 days, which is an eternity in the real estate world. Data indicates that nearly 1 in 3 homes currently on the market has had a price reduction. New building permits have dropped by 20% as developers frantically pull back to avoid bankruptcy. We are also seeing a sharp rise in expired listings, meaning homes are failing to sell at all and being taken off the market. This rate has doubled in the last 6 months. The sale-to-list price ratio has fallen to 96%, signaling weak negotiating power. Another shocking figure is that mortgage delinquencies in the county have risen by 5% according to credit reporting agencies. Even the luxury market on the lake is stalling out, with high-end inventory sitting for over 6 months without offers. In my opinion, Lexington is suffering from a classic supply overhang. And with the government jobs in Columbia not paying enough to support these inflated mortgage payments, a crash here seems inevitable. Number 4. Gastonia, North Carolina. We are heading back up north to the Charlotte region, but this time we are driving to the west side to visit Gastonia. This is a town that has tried very hard to rebrand itself from a struggling textile hub to a modern, hip suburb, specifically with the hype around the Fuse district. However, as you drive through the downtown area and into the older residential neighborhoods, you can see the revitalization efforts are hitting a massive brick wall. Gastonia was considered the last resort for affordability near Charlotte, but even here, speculators pushed prices up way too high. Now it is one of the first places to crack wide open. The demand here was largely artificial, driven by out-of-state investors and desperate buyers who were priced out of Charlotte, and both groups have now left the building. The statistics for Gastonia paint a grim picture of a market in freefall. Pending sales are down nearly 30% compared to just last year. That is a massive drop in buyer activity that cannot be ignored. Inventory levels have surged by 65%, one of the highest jumps in the entire region. Market reports indicate that the median sale price has actually dropped by 4% year over year. So property values are already actively declining. We are seeing that distressed sales, including short sales and bank-owned foreclosures, now make up 3% of the total market, which is a significant tick-up from 0. The average days on market have ballooned to 55 days. Investor purchases have crashed by 60% according to local deed records, leaving sellers without their primary exit strategy. Furthermore, nearly 45% of listings have had price cuts. The rent growth here has also turned negative, dropping by 2%, which hurts landlords' cash flow. My personal take is that Gastonia is the canary in the coal mine. It is the weakest link in the Charlotte metro area, and it is breaking first and breaking hard. Number 3. Mount Pleasant, South Carolina. We are returning to the coast, crossing the iconic Arthur Ravenel Bridge into Mount Pleasant. This is widely known as one of the most affluent, beautiful, and desirable suburbs in the entire South. So you might wonder why it is on this list. The reason is simple. The bigger they are, the harder they fall. As you drive past the high-end luxury boutiques and the pristine gated communities, remember that the cost of living here has become astronomical. The insurance crisis is hitting this coastal area harder than anywhere else, with premiums skyrocketing to unmanageable levels. Combined with high interest rates, the monthly payment to live here has effectively doubled. The wealthy are pulling back their spending, and the luxury market in Mount Pleasant is currently frozen solid. The numbers here are shocking because they defy the popular narrative that luxury real estate is immune to crashes. Inventory in the luxury price point is up by 40%. Sales of homes priced over $1 million have dropped by a staggering 25%. The median days on market for these high-end homes has hit nearly 90 days, trapping sellers in expensive holding patterns. We are seeing massive price cuts, sometimes over $100,000 at a time, just to get a single viewing. The sale-to-list ratio has dropped below 95% for the first time in years. Insurance costs have risen by an average of 30% in the zip code, scaring away potential buyers. Mortgage applications for jumbo loans are down 40% as banks tighten their lending standards. Even new custom home starts have stalled completely. My honest opinion is that Mount Pleasant is facing a severe affordability crisis, even for the wealthy. The math just does not make sense anymore, and the smart money is staying on the sidelines until prices correct significantly. Number 2, Kannapolis, North Carolina. We are hitting the road again, heading back to the Charlotte outer ring to the city of Kannapolis. This town is famous as the hometown of racing legend Dale Earnhardt and boasts a beautiful new downtown research campus. However, the housing market here was heavily targeted by massive institutional investors like BlackRock and Open Door during the pandemic buying frenzy. Now, as you drive through the neighborhoods filled with renovated mill houses and new builds, you need to know that these corporate giants are stopping their buying spree. In fact, some are starting to offload their portfolios. When the biggest buyers in town suddenly become the biggest sellers, the floor falls out from under the market, leaving regular homeowners with zero leverage. The data for Kannapolis is incredibly concerning for the average homeowner. According to county deed records, institutional investor purchases have dropped by nearly 80% year over year. That is a massive void in demand that individual buyers cannot fill. Inventory has subsequently risen by 50% as these investment homes sit unsold. Reports show that 50% of active listings have had a price drop, which means half of the entire market is slashing prices to find a buyer. The median sale price has flattened out and is showing early signs of turning negative. Days on market have more than doubled to over 50 days. We are also seeing a spike in vacant homes, with postal data showing a rise in long-term vacancies. New build permits are down 25% as builders sense the shift. Foreclosure rates are also ticking up, currently sitting higher than the national average. My view is that Kannapolis was artificially propped up by Wall Street money for 2 years. And now that the prop is gone, the market is collapsing under its own weight. Number 1, North Charleston, South Carolina. We have arrived at our final destination, the number 1 worst spot facing a total meltdown. North Charleston. This area is industrial, gritty, and has always had a volatile reputation compared to its historic neighbor. As you drive past the shipping warehouses and the port terminals, you realize this market is facing a perfect economic storm. It has all the problems of the other suburbs, sky-high inventory and crippling interest rates, but it also deals with high crime rates and a localized economic slowdown. During the buying frenzy, people bought homes here out of desperation because it was the only place left with inventory. But now, nobody wants to be left holding the bag in North Charleston. The statistics here are a horror show for the real estate market. According to local Realtor Association data, the month's supply of inventory has exploded to over 5 months, signaling a very strong buyer's market where sellers have zero control. Median sales prices are down nearly 6% year over year, which is the sharpest decline on our entire list. Foreclosure filings are currently the highest in the region, up 20% according to property data. Reports indicate that nearly 60% of homes have been sitting on the market for more than 60 days without a serious offer. The sale-to-list price ratio is a dismal 95%. Investor activity has completely flatlined, down 90% as flippers realize there is no profit to be made. Crime statistics also play a major role, with property crime rates remaining stubbornly high, deterring new families from moving in. Furthermore, eviction rates in the rental market here are some of the highest in the state. My final verdict is stark. North Charleston is in a full-blown correction, and it is the absolute last place you should be putting your capital right now, unless you want to see it disappear. We have driven hundreds of miles and looked at the ugly truth hiding behind the manicured lawns of the Carolinas. The housing meltdown is real, the data is frightening, and the correction is just getting started in these 10 suburbs. If you're currently in the market, please be incredibly cautious and do your own deep dive into the numbers before signing anything. I want to know your thoughts. Are you seeing these price drops in your neighborhood? Or do you think I'm being too pessimistic? Leave a comment below with your local observations. If you found this road trip helpful and want to protect your financial future, please like this video, share it with anyone thinking of moving here, and make sure you subscribe to Tax Hack Pro for more honest market updates. Thank you so much for riding along with me, and I will see you in the next video.